All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. All right, welcome back. And on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about mindset again because if you follow me on social media or know me in person, there's some things happening in life that were thrown at me that were not by choice, and I had to choose to have the right mindset to deal with them. If you don't know, I own a fitness studio, and I got a phone call on Sunday morning. I got two phone calls, and they were from a friend from high school who I knew if they were calling me, something was up, right? I didn't know what it was, but something was up. And so they basically told me that there was a water main break out front of the studio. The water had rushed down the parking lot, and it went into the building. Now, they didn't go into the building or see it. They just knew that the parking lot was frozen over like a hockey rink and that the windows were fogged up. So that probably meant there was water inside the building. So I went over and checked it out, and rightfully so, the whole entire building was flooded. It didn't go up too high, but the water went in the front through the entire perimeter of the building. Like every square foot got wet, and it went out the back, through the walls, and out the back door. Now, this wasn't something I had planned on doing, right? I mean, I planned on coming in on Monday, training clients, having class, and operating like we did for thousands of days, right? But this was a wrench in the plans, and believe it or not, something like this had happened before from a freak storm. So I had had this situation happen to me where I walked in and there was water everywhere. So needless to say, I was able to step back from the situation and handle it in a calm way that wasn't frantic, that wasn't me getting anxiety, that wasn't getting all upset about it. And that's the reason why I want to talk about this, because I have clients, and when I talk to them, we talk about stress a lot. And I'll say, how's work going? How's life going? We talk about eating habits, we talk about training, and we talk about the fact that it has having an impact on your life, whether positively or negatively. So for example, exercise is great. It is, I think, necessary for everyone to do, but it is also tearing down your body. It is breaking your body down and is a stressor on your body. So if we do our functional labs and we find out that your body needs more recovery, we have to limit and adjust your training program so that it suits your best needs to heal and feel safe again. So when I have these conversations about stress, a big one comes up about work and about life. And really the goal of this call, and the reason why we're talking about stress in these situations, is the perceived ability of stress, right? Like, how are you perceiving the stress? Yes, if someone were to punch you in the arm, that is stress to your arm. That's physical. If you were to eat, fast food or food that doesn't agree with your stomach, that is, got chemicals in it, that is stress to your body. But perceived stress is how you embody the situation and the story that you're telling yourself about what has occurred. And this can become the most detrimental of all because of your level of ability to make it worse than it really is. Now, there are facts and there is opinions. And in life, sometimes we are presented with facts and we create opinions based upon those. So for example, you got into a car accident. That is a fact. You rear-ended someone, your car is damaged, that's a fact. The opinion would be, oh my gosh, this is going to cost me so much money. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to file an insurance claim. My rates are going to go up. My day is ruined. You start creating those opinions about the outcome of that stressor, right? That stressor that was inputted on your life. So there are facts. You got into a car crash, and there is opinions in all of the other stuff that you made up. And today we're going to talk about how to step back and control the difference between what's actually happening and what you're creating out of that, and make sure that you're not someone who's making more out of what needs to be made of the stress, right? There's things that happen in our life that are terrible, right? You're always going to deal with things happening, right? People get sick, People pass away, you get into a car crash, you lose your job. Those things are inevitable in some way, shape, or form. But it's how you handle them that really determines your quality of life. So I know that was a long kind of like intro, but I wanted to make that point hit home because there are stressors in life. Like I said, if you exercise, that's physical stress on your body. But your mind is so powerful that if you don't have control of it, or at least acknowledge it, these stressors that are perceived can be way worse than they need to be, right? So, what I wanted to introduce is a word that I love to use, and it is equanimity, right? So, what equanimity is when you're steady on the inside. You're not numb and you're not disconnected, but you're just not hijacked from what's going on in the external world, right? So I like to look at it as equanimity is being able to experience something, whether it's good or bad, and not let it take over your nervous system for hours and days on end. Right? So this isn't about you suppressing your emotion. It's just about shortening how long your body lives in that emotion. So let's say you are an athlete and you win the championship. Yes, you should be happy about that, but you shouldn't be the person who wins a high school championship and then you're 40 years old and you're still talking about the fact that you were the quarterback of the team. Like that is not serving you anymore, right? That is not what you are. And also, same thing, if you lose your job or someone in your family passes away or something terrible happens, you should mourn that. You should you should experience your emotions, whether that's crying, sadness, grief. You should learn how to step into those emotions, but don't let it ruin the rest of your life. If something like that happened and 9 years later you're still upset about it, well, that's worth looking into, right? You shouldn't have let it carry on that long. So again, it's not saying that if you win a prize or a medal or get a promotion at work that you shouldn't be happy for that stuff. You work hard for your life and the goals that you have. You should very much celebrate those wins. But if you let it be your story for the rest of your life, that can be damaging. And same thing for the negative. Right? So what I like to do for myself and what I teach clients is just to pause, right? It is being able to notice the trigger that's happening and stop before you respond to it, right? Because if you react to something out of emotion, it may cause extra stress. It may be a little more exaggerative than it needs to be, and it could cause you to be regretful for your decision. So what you do is you notice the trigger, you stop before you respond, you take one slow breath, and then you ask a better question, right? Like the fender bender example that I gave. There is a fact, you got into a fender bender, and then all of those opinions that stirred up in your head are all of these things that happen if you don't pause. The situation happens, you got into a fender bender, you pull off to the side of the road, you notice the trigger, and the trigger is tightness in your stomach, anxiety, maybe you're a little nervous, you never got into an accident before. Like all of those things are real emotions. You should feel those and notice them. But before you respond and go off onto a tangent in your head or start calling people or, getting yourself all worked up, just take a deep breath in through your nose, nice and slow, blow up your belly like a balloon, and then exhale, and then ask a better question. I wonder if, my insurance company will cover this. I wonder if this person will be cooperative with me and want to make it an easy transition and an easy situation. You could say, if you want to get even more optimistic, I wonder if where I was headed, there was a more dangerous situation for me to be in, and this little fender bender that I got into saved me from being in a fatal car crash or something even worse, right? Like your mindset has different levels on the questions that you can ask it. But the point is that you're noticing the trigger, you're removing yourself from the situation, and you're able to ask yourself a better question. And that stops the emotion, or at least calms it down, and puts you in a better frame of mind so that your body is not enduring that high level of stress. Because you've all been there before, right? Where your heart's pounding, you're kind of breathing very shallow but very fast, and it just, your palms get sweaty. You've been in those stressful situations. That doesn't feel good, right? That's not good for your vital health and your body. So if you can stop yourself and remove yourself from that situation, you're able to better monitor when those situations happen. So just simply, right, your power that you have, it lives in the space between what happened and then how you respond to it. That's your power right there because you have the choice. So if you give yourself a moment to breathe and make a better decision, not out of anger, not out of jealousy, not out of anxiety, you're better off, right? You're probably going to make some better decisions. Now, this situation came up with a client of mine, and we were talking about work and how it was a stressful job and that it comes with the territory and it's just going to happen, right? You can't eliminate stress from your life. That's crazy. But I said to her, all these situations that you're dealing with, are you embodying them or are you just dealing with them? And it seems as though she's getting better at not embodying them, but just kind of like looking at them at face value, doing what you need to do to operate your job at a high level and support your people that you work with and serve your clients and things like that. Like do your job to the best of your ability. But when you're embodying you're letting it take control over you and taking value of you, the person. So I said to her, I said, these situations that are occurring at work, would they matter on your deathbed? Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show. And again, that sounds morbid, but it's the truth, right? If we were to fast forward to a few days before we pass away and we're laying there in a bed and we're let's say 120 years old, because that's how we all want to live, right? Wink, wink. Is this going to matter, right? Are these problems at work really going to stress you out or no? And what it really does is it just allows you to zoom out a bit, right? It's not minimizing the pain, but you step back and you say, what's going on right now? Will it matter in the grand scheme of things? No. It doesn't mean that you don't solve the problem. Like you still answer the situation that's going on and do your best to get through it. But you don't do it out of a state of fear. You don't do it out of a state of anxiety. You can handle it calmly. And again, you then in turn will make better decisions. And then what else it does when you have this frame of mind is it just reminds you that you have survived hard things before. You know, likely if you're listening to this, you're not a little kid, you're an adult, you're maybe older than me. But that the point is like if you have been alive for more than 20 years, I'm 31, but let's say you're 60 years old, you've been through a lot. And you've been through hardship. You've been through, probably heartbreak and trials and tribulations and illnesses. And you've been through all of that. And you're still here listening to this. So if you can't acknowledge the fact that you've done that and you can do it again, well then, I don't know, this is just a good way to do that. So you zoom out and you say, hey, I've been through hard things before. I'm still here. I have my support. I know how to handle this mentally. I have some techniques to help me get through it. And we're going to be okay, right? It might not be ideal, but we're good. Now, how does this connect to you, the menopausal female? Now, you might not be that person listening to this, but that's who I serve. But what it does for you specifically is it affects your hormonal shifts. It will adjust your ability to tolerate stress and make it less tolerable. So when stress hits you, it kind of impacts you even more. It makes recovery take longer. And it gives you an emotional load that takes longer to dissipate and it's heavier than it used to be. So just realize in this season of your life, your body is becoming less forgiving when you stay emotionally activated all day long. So if something happens to you and you're letting it linger for hours and days, your body is being affected by that at a higher level, So that chronic emotional stress is becoming physical stress if you allow it. So when you let it linger for days and you've been doing this for years and years, well, guess what? Your body is being depleted. Your immune system cannot keep up with that load of stress on it all the time. So by default, it kind of puts its guard down and your defenses go down and now you start to experience more symptoms and, a harder time recovering. So, let's be real here for a moment, and I'll even spin it onto myself. When I was younger, I grew up in a household where there was a lot of aggression due to, I have two older brothers, and my dad came from a place of anger a lot of times, like aggression. When things didn't go his way, there was yelling, there was that tone of anger. So I embodied that. I really didn't even know why I was angry for many years, but I would just respond that way. And if someone would do something, like, it would make me angry for hours and hours. Like, one of my brothers did something to piss me off, something happened in school or whatever it was, it would eat at me for hours or days. And I would want to, release it with physical anger, like punching something, working out, running. Like, I needed to release that anger. And I didn't know why that was, right? I didn't even know why I was responding to that way. And it was affecting my peace so much until one day, you get a little bit older and you just ask yourself, like, why are you even angry? And I realized that I had no reason to be for most of those things. And even if it was a reason to be angry, I had no reason to hold on to it for that long. And I released that. And in what felt like an instant, I felt the stress release off my body. And I said, no, you know what? I'm in control of this and how I respond. And therefore, going forward, I've become a much more happy guy just in general, right? And it's pretty special when you take back your power in that sense, right? The stress that the external forces in life are putting upon you. And what I conceive it as, what it relates to, is like a hangover, right? When you don't pause for that moment, you don't feel the emotional experience once, you let it carry later on into the day. You let it carry on into the way you sleep. You let it carry on into tomorrow. And you let it carry on into your relationships that you have. How many times have you been at work and something pissed you off and you brought it home to your family? And now you're responding to them in a negative way and they don't understand. They think it's about them. And then they get all frustrated, like, oh, why are they acting like this? Well, it wasn't even about them in the first place. But that hangover of that stress, you let carry on for way too long. And now it's affecting and impacting other areas of your life that you don't want it to. Right? And guess what else? It impacts your health. It impacts your symptoms, like we were talking about. It shows up for you as fatigue, it shows up as irritability, it shows up as brain fog, low motivation, and just feeling that level of flat, right? That's all you holding on to stress. And we need to learn to let it go, right? So here's a simple thing that you can do anytime to just start today and to get one small step towards decompressing that overwhelm. So what you can do, right? Take a minute and think of one thing that triggered you today, right? Then pause, take one slow, deep breath, and then ask yourself, what is the most grounded response available to me right now? What is the best way to handle this? And because the day has passed and you're listening to this when the situation has already occurred, you can really, sit with that thought for a moment and say, what is the best way to handle this? Take a deep belly breath. Shoot, take a couple of them if you need to, right? And maybe it was a really stimulating experience. Take a few deep belly breaths and then say, what is the most grounded response available to me right now? That's it. No journaling, no perfect execution, just acknowledgement. Now, later on, you can do this right now, but I would challenge you to also journal something out. And these are more like reflection questions. And I have two for you, and I want you to do this on pen and paper, right? And the first question is, what situations trigger me the fastest? Maybe you're driving in the car and people, get on your nerves because they're cutting you off or they're not driving fast enough. Maybe there's someone at work that triggers you. So jot down what are the situations that really trigger you quickly and they really heighten up your stress levels. And then the second question I want you to answer for yourself is, what would it look like to respond to these instead of react to just one of those situations this week? So again, you have this person at work, they really get on your nerves, and you kind of react to them by throwing on this attitude and you say a smart remark. What would it look like if you could just pause and respond to the situation rather than react? Because your reaction is your body's taking over and your emotions are taking over. But when you can pause, you take back control of your life and you're the one in the driver's seat. And that really feels good when you can step back and answer that person, not out of anxiety, not out of fear or frustration or anger, but out of control. Really, I went a couple different ways with this, but I always like to tie it back into health because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about living our most vital, happy life. And this is why when I work with clients, I don't just run labs and talk about supplements, right? Because your body truly needs to learn how to respond to how you live inside of your life. You're a human being. You're going to deal with stressors in life, and how you respond to your life affects all of the other things that you can talk about: your workout program, the supplements you take, the food that you eat, your ability to get good sleep. All of that stuff matters on how you perceive the life that you're living in, right? So that's why it's all about clarity, it's about structure, it's about emotional safety, and then it's about belief. When you start to get those, you really start to heal and improve your overall situation. So, if something like this, like what we just talked about, landed for you and you've been feeling emotionally exhausted more than you've been physically tired, this is exactly the kind of work that we do inside our group training. We run labs, we get to know you as a person, we get to understand your symptoms, we get to understand your lifestyle and how you handle stress, and then come up with a custom protocol for you based upon that situation. So that's why I do what I do. But if this message landed with you, all that I ask, as always, share it with a friend, post it on your story, and most importantly, take action, right? Journal those prompts. Use this as a reminder tomorrow or today when something happens in your life to just pause, take a deep breath, and respond instead of react. It will improve your outlook, it will improve your health, and it'll improve your day. So I hope you guys got a lot of value from this, and I will see you next week. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show, or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.